Hello, this is Nicholas Tanek from YourKinkyFriends.com. I have an absolutely wonderful guest tonight. I've been waiting to interview this woman. We are going to be talking about being a professional dominatrix, both online and in person. We're going to be talking about hypnosis. We're going to be talking about Sissy's chastity, CBT, and being a sensual dominatrix. And also, we're going to talk about film production. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Sierra Fox.
Hello, nice to be here.
Please tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, let's see. I have been in the industry for about 4 years. I originally started out, I had no idea what I was doing. I moved to New York from Florida and had no experience in kink BDSM at all. So I went to a munch and then I went to a play party. Slowly but surely started discovering that I had both submissive and dominant tendencies, more leaning towards the dominant tendencies. And I had actually been with a guy who he was vanilla himself, so I thought. But then he asked me if I would fist him one day. And I was like, okay, I can do that. And I did, and the power exchange just felt remarkable, and that was the snowball effect.
Okay, we'll talk about fisting a little bit. I'm going to make a note. Okay, so I'm always curious, and I usually start off each interview with this kind of question. I'm always curious how kinky people first come out. So, like, you are absolutely proud to be kinky and proud to explore, and sexually express yourself. So when was the first time you really kind of owned it and came out as a kinky person?
The really first time I remember, I was at a fetish party in the city, and they were having a slave auction, which essentially, if you were a submissive or a dominant, you can go up on the stage and they would bid you off with fake money. It's a fun thing. And then whoever won you can have a session with you. So I decided to put myself on the auction as a dom. And this is the first time that I've ever came out with it. I have always, just kind of kept to myself, but I thought to myself, you know what, let's try something different for a change. And so I got on stage and everybody was just trying to bid for me. And a gentleman who was actually blind, he won me, and his partner, who was basically able to see for him, described me to him, and we had our first scene. He was a big pain slut, which is one of my favorites to deal with in real-time sessions. And at the end of it, he was just so enamored by the whole thing. He was like, are you a professional? Because that was an amazing experience. And I said, well, no. And he's like, you should consider it. And he actually gifted me this beautiful mahogany wooden paddle.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
It was a very beautiful experience.
Now, when it comes to femdom, femdom and being a professional dominatrix, the whole spectrum of femdom is huge. It almost seems infinite. What would you say your specialties are?
My specialties would probably be, well, Sierra Fox is the goddess of sensual domination and erotic hypnosis. And when I say sensual domination, now, obviously, you have your sadists and your masochists, but sensual domination is a little more, what's the word I'm looking for? It's much more low-key, I guess. I mean, there's much more teasing involved, not as much pain, but it's fun for everyone.
Yeah, my dom, Miss Melissa, I would say she's more of a sensual dom. She's not really a sadist.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, I've talked to sadists, stuff like that. But do you ever, even though you consider yourself more of a sensual dom, do you ever lean towards the sadistic side at all?
Oh, absolutely. There will be days, especially if I go out to any of the local kink clubs and stuff. If I've had a rough day in vanilla life, and I'll come out there and I'm just like, I really need to find myself a good pain slut. And, I think it's a good release for both of us at that point.
Okay, let's talk about hypnosis now. I've
Sure.
talked to a bunch of you know, erotic hypnosis hypnotists, and some people just study on their own. Some people like actually take courses and get degrees in it. How did you come to become an erotic hypnotist?
I've been a fan of psychology well before I even went to college. I love the study of the mind. It is just so complex, and using hypnosis and a few other forms of, psychology behind it, whether it's your classic CBT, which not to be confused with cock and ball torture, but CBT is one of the types of therapy used in psychology, which can further, I guess, get into your sub's head. So it's a much more, it's a lot more of a mental game than it is, I mean, you see on TV, you have, like the swing of a clock, or, just focusing on the trance, which that does have a lot to do with it. But at least in my practice, it's a lot more of getting to the core of their fetish.
Okay, now do you have a kind of hypnosis that's most popular? For example, I know um, a lot of like Sissy hypnosis,
Mm-hmm.
and or there's like the hypnotist who kind of try to get the people's lives together, like their their bills and their work and stuff like that, or their what is the most kind of popular thing for you?
For me, well, a lot of my clientele, they actually do go along the route of the fixing of the lives structure. With all of my subs, I am hell bent on helping them better themselves, and that's what I think a good dominant should do, because it's a partnership, in that type of dynamic. So I would say that's pretty popular. Also, pairing erotic hypnosis with things like coerced intox, or just a lot of like jerk off instruction. That seems to be a popular type of hypnosis that I've used.
Okay. Is there a certain kind of technique? Because I noticed that a lot of the people who are the women who do the erotic hypnosis, they all have their own kind of style. How would you kind of describe your style?
My style, I would have to say, it's very much word based. So a lot of my triggers to have a sub go into trance are word based, depending on what we have set in stone as their trigger word. Also, the can you repeat the question one more time? I just blanked.
What kind of, how would you describe your style?
My style, it's so I see it more as telling a story and leading them towards deepening their trance.
Okay, excuse me. Okay, let's talk about sissies.
Yes.
Um, tell me about the process when it comes to sissies, because do well. First of all, this is a multi-part question about sissies. First, yeah, please describe the process. Second, are most sissies that you deal with, are they experienced or are they first time?
So a lot of the sissies that come to me, surprisingly enough, they're experienced already. Um, it's very rare that I find somebody who hasn't already gone out and bought their own pair of panties and has, tried dressing up on their own with either their wife or their girlfriend's clothing. So I guess you could say that when I enter the picture with the sissy, it's more of a refining experience, as opposed to a first time, okay, let's get your feet wet with, feminization and wearing panties and dressing up, feminized makeup, everything along the lines of that. And then what was the second part of the question?
Um, yeah. Well, I'll redo it. So, okay. my dom and I are into the forced cross-dressing stuff, but there are some sissies that become very feminine, act feminine, and become very feminine and girly. But I'm the type of person, if I get put in a dress or panties or whatever like that, I'm dominant in everyday life. I just get submissive. I don't get girly. I'm not usually not makeup involved. Sometimes I'm not even shaven. You know what I mean? But I just get submissive. So with all the sissies or the forced cross-dressing stuff that you deal with, what percentage are the ones that become very just submissive, and what are percentage would be the ones who get extremely feminine?
I would probably have to, let's see. I don't want to say, I do want to say that more of the sissies that I deal with are more feminine than the ones who just become submissive.
Okay, interesting. Now, one thing about sissies in femdom is chastity. Do you have anybody in chastity right now?
I do. Yes, he's a very good boy. He has been in chastity for almost coming up on a month now.
Oh, okay. Is it in person or just online?
In person.
Ooh, better. Yeah, what's the longest you've kept someone in chastity?
A lot of them struggle. I will say that. I think the longest that I was able to keep somebody in chastity was only about 3 months.
Ah, that's long.
Yeah, they come and they go.
Yeah, the longest I've been in is 2 weeks.
Okay, well, hey, that's a start.
Yeah, that's a start. But it's also because, I'm not bragging or anything like that, but my dom loves it when I fuck her. So
Well, you can't lose. This is a win-win situation. So
okay. So all right, we talked about chastity, and another thing with sissies and also chastity. One thing that you do, which is I'm kind of curious about as a kink, not necessarily curious for myself, but you have something called you do something called coerced by. Please tell us about that.
coerced by, essentially, you would take one sub, and it can go a few different ways. So what I have done is I have had 2 subs in the same room, and I would basically coerce them into sucking one of each other off. And these are, a lot of these guys are straight masculine men, and then once the submission hits them, they will open up because they do want to please me, and seeing them do that pleases me.
Oh, okay. Now, something like that I would think, is something that certain people, certain subs would, say a safe word before that.
Absolutely.
So is it something you kind of discussed beforehand? Like I would think maybe you'd be like, would you be open to it, or would you?
With any of my sessions, but especially something with dealing with a much heavier subject matter like that, it's always discussed beforehand. I will give them kind of like, I don't want to give away everything because then that takes away the fun of it. But I try as much as possible to say, like, okay, here's kind of a rundown of what's going to happen. We have this hotel room or wherever our space is going to be, and then I'll either have one of the subs already in there and I'll introduce one of the other ones coming in, or I'll make one wait in the bathroom. And everything has to be negotiated first, regardless.
Okay. Now, so you're meeting these people and you're doing sessions at hotel rooms. You're not doing it at your house or apartment, right?
Nope. No. Nobody is allowed to come to my house except unless for a prior agreement that they are a personal sub of mine, in which they can come and clean.
Okay. So one thing that always fascinates me is the vetting process, because there are a lot of dangerous people out there.
Of course.
And you don't have to give it all away, but what is some of your vetting process like?
Safety is my number one priority. So when it comes to my vetting process, first and foremost, if somebody wants to serve me, I make them fill out a kink compatibility questionnaire that I've designed myself. and they require a password on my website to get to it, so they have to pay a tribute in order to get the password to the website. Then from there, I require them, if they're in a local area to New York City, I require them to meet me in person for either lunch or coffee, or something along the lines of that, at a public local restaurant. We can discuss normal vanilla things, and then we can segue into more kinky talk, you know, without telling the entire world, hey, you know, we're kinky people. And then should that little meeting go well, then I will allow them to serve more often.
Now, I know most of my friends are kinky, but like there are friends who are interested but don't really have an experience. What advice would you give to a woman who wants to get into being a dominatrix?
Research until your eyes bleed. It's one of those things, and you're going to start out with no experience. You're going to start out not knowing what the hell you're doing. But the more you put yourself in a situation where you are trying new things, or you're learning about new techniques, especially if you're into like impact player, things that require equipment, research. And also I'd recommend, like, some people don't recommend it, but I actually recommend going out to play parties just so that you can get in the atmosphere of a kinky situation, so it feels a lot more comfortable getting engaged with people.
It's also good for networking.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, let's get down to the nitty gritty. Cock and ball torture.
Ah, yes.
All right. What is one of the most brutal things you've done in CBT?
One of the most brutal things that I can recall, I know I posted a video of it a few weeks ago, is that I took a riding crop, and I had a sissy who had promised me that they would meet their curfew, and they went 66 minutes over their curfew, and so I smacked them 66 times with a riding crop.
Ouch.
On the back of the balls while they were in a humbler.
Oh. Yes, and for those who don't know, that's this wooden thing that basically takes the balls and you put it behind. It's like behind the thigh, right?
Yeah, it's like the seating area almost.
Yeah, and like so the man or sister, whatever, can't stand up, basically.
Oh no.
Yeah, he's enabled.
I have a lot of fun with clothespins too.
Ooh. Okay, so let's talk about this film production. Tell us about that. What's that all about?
I actually went to school for media production. So I love the art of storytelling. That has always been my passion, from ever since I was a little girl. And a lot of my earlier videos, they do show, you know, kind of like a story arc with a lot of the production qualities. So nowadays, you know, you see a lot of different clip artists and clip models doing, you know, what sells, but I have been trying to break out of the mold and sell more artistically shot clips. And I'm hoping that I can also, you know, I provide a service to anybody who's local, if they want to ever shoot with me, that my services are available.
Interesting. Have you ever heard of Maria Beatty?
Maria what? I'm sorry.
Maria Beatty, Batty.
I don't think so.
She's out of New York. She's she runs Blue Productions. She is a lesbian masochist, and she's did some really interesting artistic BDSM videos.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you might be interested in
I'm gonna have to, yeah.
Blue Productions, BLEU Productions. Yeah, Maria Beatty. She's,
okay.
Now, okay, what about it? Do you do it for other people as well, not just yourself?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. And what about equipment? What kind of equipment do you like?
So I have, let's see, I have 2 to 3, well, technically 4 cameras. I have a Canon XA20, a Nikon D3300. I have just a basic, you know, Logitech webcam that's HD 1080p, and I also have a GoPro. And that's just for cameras. Then I have all the different lightings. I have sound. I have backdrops. I'm full service.
Okay, so I've I've been doing these videos, but this is just but I did some much more high tech videos like on YouTube and Nicholas Tanek. I interviewed Tom Sharpling, and like we were in a studio. Everything was mic, the lighting, and everything like that. Takes a lot. What would you say the biggest hurdle is? The biggest hurdle you have of putting together a good film?
Biggest hurdle, doing it alone sometimes is probably the hardest part, because I have these crazy, ideas for camera movements and everything else, and sometimes it's hard to do as just one person. But I have become really good at editing, and just trying to make those still, like, say for example, if I'm just taking like a POV shot like this, I'm still able to make the camera move in post. Just something simple like that, as if the stuff is actually there.
What software do you use for editing?
I use Final Cut Pro 10.
Okay. All right, cool. Now, all right, let's get a little personal here. A lot of professional DOMs, they see them being a DOM as work. And of course, sex work is work. You know what I mean? So is there a difference between your kinks professionally versus personal?
Absolutely, actually. So obviously in my professional life, I am strictly dominant. But in my personal life, I do tend to get a little bit switchy. So my boyfriend is entirely vanilla. When he first met me, it was the first experience he's ever had with kink, period. So it's been a fun ride. But with him, I am much more open to being submissive with him, because I'm very comfortable with him. I trust him. There's a whole lot of, variables that go into it. But, I am myself, in my own submissive side, I'm more into bondage and pet play and OTK spanking.
Oh, what kind of pet?
A fox.
A fox. Oh, that's a first. That's the first one. I've had kittens on the show. I've had
very much like a puppy.
Had puppies, yeah, but I haven't had a fox yet. Okay. All right. So I'm always interested on how people meet. So you have a boyfriend. He's vanilla, but obviously he's open-minded, right? Because he's dating you. So how did you two meet?
Oh my God. So he was actually my first boyfriend in middle school. And then we broke up because middle school. We didn't talk for 10 years. And then about 3 years ago, he found me on social media and we started talking, here and there, nothing too intimate, just like casual stuff. And we had both moved. We were from Florida at the time. He had moved since then to Chicago, and I had moved to New York. So I was talking to him one night, and I looked up plane tickets, and they were cheap to Chicago. I took a flight out there, and we rekindled some feelings that we had for each other.
My story with Lynn, and yourself. That's very similar to she was a high school thing, and we broke up, went our separate ways. 15 years later, we got back together, and then we just blew up in kink.
Isn't it crazy how it just works out?
It is one. You know what? It shows. It lets people know that there are such things as second chances, and I think that's very, very important.
I think that speaks levels. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Okay. Personal relationships. Are there any new kinks that you want to try? Because this rabbit hole goes down deeper and deeper and deeper, and I'm sure even though you're experienced, you haven't tried everything. Is there anything that you're kind of curious about that you haven't tried yet, or that you're just started?
So actually, when I was first starting at kink parties, I would sub here and there, and I'd actually I'd get suspended in bondage. I'm actually really curious from a dominant perspective to start doing more bondage wise, and possibly even getting into suspension.
Oh yeah, to check out if you look up on the Your Kinky Friends site, on the bottom left hand, there's a search button. I mean, there's a search thing. Just look up rigor, which is the people RIGGER, people who suspend, and there's some cool interviews you might be interested in.
Oh, awesome. Okay, will do.
Yeah. So okay, all right, we'll get down and dirty again. Fisting. You said one of the first kinky things you did was fisting. Now, I've never been fisted. I've never fisted anybody. It doesn't really seem to be my thing. I'm not against it. I fully respect it. But what would you say? What advice would you give to somebody, either giving or receiving, or both, of someone who's never fisted or has been fisted before?
Okay, so main tips that I would give: 1, research how to give a proper enema. 2, when you are about to insert, make sure that you have plenty of lube. None of this like spit on your hand and try to do that whole thing, because that's not cutting it. Right. So tons and tons of lube. I would always recommend gloves, just because it's smart and safe. You never know, you might have a hangnail or something. It's not a great experience. Just being honest. Yeah. And to make it a more pleasurable experience, do some research on where the prostate gland is. So if you're sticking in, kind of wiggle down. Mm-hmm. If you're sticking like this, from the other angle, if they're on their back, wiggle up.
I would think talking would be, like you as a dom talking would be.
It's anytime that there's anal, then I do sessions where anal play is involved. I'm not one of those sadistic people who are just trying to like ram you until, you're bloody. Like, I make sure I take my time. I'm always constantly checking in, making sure they're okay, making sure they're comfortable. I mean, there is going to be some discomfort, but I do want to make sure that they are, checked in with, because they might not even realize it. And it could be like a mental thing that they can go into after the fact, and you don't want them having a bad sub drop.
Definitely. Okay. So after I guess the healing or the subspace, the oh my God, my brain. Like, what do you do after the session's over and the sub has to like kind of come down? How do you go through that process?
Everybody has their own type of aftercare that they want. Yeah. So I try to, whenever I'm finished with the session, I immediately just go either get a water bottle or a glass of water. I'll bring it over to them. I'll sit with them for a minute. If they need to be held, I'll hold them for a bit. And then I like to end my aftercare with a debrief session.
Okay. Now, do you use music in your sessions?
It depends. Sometimes I like to, because when I'm doing impact play, playing with rhythms is just super fun.
Okay.
Usually, but it's not all the time.
What kind of music do you usually use?
It depends what I'm in the mood for. I generally like to stick with instrumentals.
Yeah.
Whether it's instrumentals that are, a lot more just like calm and relaxing, or something with a beat that's like, fast and hard, if I'm doing much more sadistic work.
I don't know. You know who Brian Eno is?
Brian who?
Brian Eno. That
name's familiar, yeah.
Yeah, he used to be in Roxy Music, and now he's like a major producer, but he does a lot of ambient work. And there's a track called Ascent, and in parentheses it's called An Ending. And on YouTube, there's an hour-long version of it. It's a loop. You can't tell when it ends or begins, but it's great. It gets me right into subspace like that. Yeah, it's very ethereal and dreamy. Like, also like some like instrumental trip hop is good.
I listen to a lot of trip hop.
Yeah, like the Portishead and Tricky, Massive Attack. Some of all that instrumental stuff is really good for that. And there are even some independent hip hop instrumental, because like they make total instrumental albums, and they're not. Some of them aren't like especially the stuff from Japan is really interesting. Like the Okay, we're good. New kinks. We're good. Okay, rapid fire, and they don't always end up rapid fire. This doesn't have to be kink related. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Recommend a movie.
Baby Driver.
Oh, that was good. I love the opening to that. I love
That there's something about the way that that director just edits his films that
Edgar
just
Wright.
makes my heart sing.
Edgar Wright.
Oh God, he's wonderful.
Yeah, and the cast is amazing. The kid, even the Kevin Spacey, all the Kevin Spacey stuff going on. Kevin Spacey's really good in it. You know what I mean?
I agree.
He's still a little creepy, but still, he's really good at it. And the soundtrack's amazing.
Oh, the soundtrack is perfect.
Yeah, I never saw an Edgar Wright film that I didn't like. And Baby Driver is one of those that's very much up there. Okay, recommend a song.
Oh my goodness. Oh, what's it called? I was just listening to it earlier. I can't remember her name, but the song is called it's from Brother Where Art Thou. It's the song that what's his name sings.
Man of Constant Sorrow?
I think so.
I am a man of constant sorrow.
No, it's the other one. It's the other one. George Clooney?
Yeah, George Clooney.
Yeah, George Clooney.
Yeah, that's Man of Constant
Yeah, there's another
Sorrow.
song.
It's the one that becomes the hit, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, so it is that song.
Man of Constant Sorrow.
I'm not good with names.
Oh, Brother Art Thou is an amazing movie. Oh my God, it's based on Homer's The Odyssey. It's so well done, and it came out right at a time where I was like, yeah, George Clooney's overrated. And then I saw him in this. I was like, this guy's pretty awesome. And then I like it made me like really go into the Coen Brothers movies. Like there's a new one called The Ballad of Buster Scruggs, which starts off like really happy and then gets kind of depressing. But I love the Coen Brothers movies. Big Lebowski. Big
Lebowski is my boyfriend's like favorite movie ever.
Great. It's so good. Like everything. They have Big Lebowski conventions and stuff like that.
They do. Yeah, I did notice that.
It's an excellent movie.
I don't know.
What's kind of funny about it is that there's not much of a plot. There's not, you know what I mean? There is kind of, but it's like, and I love it. I could watch the movie I've seen it. I must have seen it at least 100 times. But I'm a huge movie buff. All right, so you recommend a book?
Good Omens.
Who's that by? What's that about?
Terry Pratchett and Neil Gaiman.
Oh, I'm not familiar with that.
It's about the apocalypse, but in a really dark, humored way.
Oh, that's my kind of style. I like that.
Very good.
Okay, recommend a TV show.
TV show. I've been on a Letterkenny kick.
Oh my God, I love that show.
I don't know if it's just like the Southern in me, but I'm just like, shit, this feels like home.
Well, they're Canadian, yeah. I like how there's this one where in the beginning they do the whole alphabet because like there's a cold open in the beginning, right?
Oh my God, yes.
Yeah,
that was so brilliantly done.
The way they do the whole alphabet is mind blowing. It's so good, and it's I believe it's on Hulu now. It's on Hulu now.
It's on Hulu. Yep.
Yeah. But when I before it was on Hulu, I had to like bootleg it off of like some torrent site because I couldn't find it anywhere, you know. And I'm like, it's on Hulu. I just binge watched it. It's great. It's so good. Letterkenny.
So good.
It's so funny. It's so good. All right, now we're gonna play the word association game. Now,
give me 2 seconds to plug my laptop in because my laptop charger unplugged.
No problem. In the meantime, go to yourkinkyfriends.com.
Okay, I am ready.
Okay, so the word associate game is like this. It's word or phrase. It doesn't have to be just the word. Okay, so I'm going to say a word or a phrase, and you say the first thing that pops in your head. Now, we have 2 rules. The first rule is to literally say the first thing that pops in your head. It doesn't have to make sense. It could be something like if I say chastity, you could say lock or cock or, but if I say chastity and like, let's say, you're hungry and you have some pizza downstairs left over, you could say pizza. Perfect.
Okay.
Okay. All right. The second rule is we don't kink shame. So if I say a kink that you do not like, please do not make fun of it. Please, don't go like, "Ugh." Just say, not my thing. Okay.
I have a
Now,
new kink shaming rule in my house, so let's go.
okay. All right. One more thing. So
Yes.
most of the stuff that I'm going to say is off the top of my head, and it will be kink related. But we have the jar. Now,
Oh.
Tangled Blue, someone who I love with all my heart. We have both weird, absurd sense of humor. She gives me this jar, and I don't know what's in it, so I don't know what I'm going to pick. Sometimes it's kink related, sometimes it's not. It
Okay.
could be absolute nonsense. Okay, and then we have one rule supersedes. He makes stickers, kink stickers. So I'm going to use one of those two. Okay, ready to go?
Ready.
Remember, first thing that pops in your head. Okay. All right. Pegging.
Anal.
All right. Rimming.
Tongue.
All right. Suffocation.
Gag.
Face slapping.
Ow.
Needles.
Not my thing.
Fireplay.
Always wanted to try it, but never had the balls to do it.
Wax play.
Love it.
Sissies.
Fun.
Chastity.
Cock.
Corsets.
I love them.
Pet play.
Foxy.
All right. One rule supersedes. This is today's sticker. It says, "Punish me."
Whips.
Right. Straight jackets.
Sensory deprivation.
The daddy baby girl dynamic.
Super cute.
Medical play.
Not my thing.
Sploshing.
Kind of weird,
Okay.
but kind of cool.
Let's go into the jar. Like I said, I don't know. Grease. That could be the substance or the movie. I don't know.
I was thinking the musical.
Okay. You ever notice in Grease, in Summer Lovin', it's a little rapey. There's like, seriously, it's like, tell me more, tell me more. Did she? Did
Put up a fight.
he put up?
Did she put up a fight?
Like,
Who does?
yeah,
The 50s, man. Weird times.
yeah. Squish.
Squish. Pop.
Fingers.
Fingering.
Ooh. Ooh. Cage.
Chastity.
Ooh. My favorite. Fishnets.
Hot.
Spit.
Not my thing.
When I look at it, it says tips.
Oh, boy.
All right. The Hitachi magic wand.
My favorite.
The violet wand.
I love electroplay.
Ooh. Okay. Wrestling fetish.
Scissoring.
All right. The mommy fetish.
Call me mama.
Okay. Thigh highs.
Cat-like.
All right. Nun outfits.
Not my thing.
All right. Nurses outfits.
Cute.
All right. Cosplay.
I've never done it.
Okay. The St. Andrew's cross.
Great equipment.
Rope.
Hemp rope.
Mummification.
Saran wrap.
Branding.
In moderation.
Okay. Water sports, aka piss play.
Tried it for the first time recently.
Ooh, really? What'd you think?
So I've done it as a dominant before, but I've never done it as a submissive.
Ah, interesting.
So that was interesting. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it yet.
Okay. Well, you know, like I said, it's the rabbit hole goes deep. You never know.
It does.
I didn't know what I was gonna like. You know, I never thought I'd be into like chastity or anything like that. And I'm not like 100% into it. Like I'm down for it, but I'm like, no. Okay. Finally, we come to the end. Scat.
Not my thing.
Okay. All right. So look, before we go, we're going to do the plugs. So please, and after we're done, please stay on the line. I'd like to talk with you just for a minute or two. I know one of the most important things is whenever dealing with dominatrix, one of the main rules, don't waste their time. And I choose to waste their time. So please take this time, even though you gave me all the links and they're on the will be on your page for this video. But please feel free to promote anything and everything you want, whether they're dates, whether they're Twitter, whether it's Snapchat, Instagram, you name it, go.
Okay, you can find me on Twitter and Snapchat with the handle xsierrafox. Pardon?
With 2 R's.
2.
Yes, 2 R's.
2
Yeah.
R's. Yes. Sorry. I'm like, what does that mean? No, yes. You can, I am available on I Want Clips, ManyVids, and Clips for Sale. You could find all of those links on digitalseductress.com, my website. And if you want to subscribe to my member site, it's Sierra Fox Psychophants, excuse me. And I am always available for shoots, whether it's photography or videography, for anybody local to the New York City area, if you are in need of an extra set of hands on a camera.
Wonderful. Oh my God. Miss Sierra Fox, you have been an absolute pleasure. I absolutely adored to talk with you. I've learned so much, and I hope some of the people learned so much too. Please, everybody, go to yourkinkyfriends.com. We have a Discord chat group with a bunch of new people. There are a bunch of different channels. Everyone, promotes each other's work and everything like that. I'm on Facebook as Nicholas Tanek. There's Nicholas Tanek on Twitter. I'm on Instagram as Nick Tanek. And then there's Friends Kinky on both Instagram and Twitter. Just look up Nicholas Tanek and you'll find me. We also have a Your Kinky Friends secret Facebook group. So that's always fun. And yes, it's getting late, my friends. My Dom is calling me. Please remember the cardinal rule. Be cool, be kind, and keep an open mind. Have a great night. Stay kinky.